Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of nonprofits are slowing down right now, but
Right.
so what we decided is during this pandemic, recognizing that periods do not stop for any pandemic, so we committed to sending period products for free to any shelter or service provider that needs them around the country. So we're sending period products to all over the East Coast and the West Coast and getting period products in the hands of people who need them most right now.
Where did your passion for this come from? Because this started when you were pretty young.
Yeah, so I know that menstruation is not the most common thing to be obsessed with, but I've been obsessed since I was 16 and a junior in high school here in Portland. I founded my organization after being inspired by my family's own experience with homelessness, and then also being inspired by the stories of homeless women who were in much worse living situations than I was in, that I met in Old Town Portland, actually, and hearing their stories of using toilet paper and socks and brown paper grocery bags and cardboard to take care of their periods, and really decided to take action after I learned that 40 states at the time had a sales tax on period products, considering them luxury items.
That's a big one. It is interesting that they've been taxed when it makes no sense because they're a necessary item, not a luxury.
I mean, I would totally agree. And I mean, for the last 5 years, we've been fighting to take down the tampon tax state by state. And so we went from 40 and now we're at 30 5 years later. And our network recently helped take it down in Ohio, Utah, Washington, and California. And we're getting ready to try to push, especially during this pandemic time, to say that these added cents for some people do make a difference when they buy period products. So this, of all times, is time to take down the tampon tax in the remaining 30 states.
Who have you faced in opposition to this? Because it seems like a no-brainer. Yeah, of course. Why are we doing this? Who opposes this?
I mean, we get a lot of questions of people simply not believing that menstrual hygiene is a necessity, right? I think to you and me, it makes absolute sense. But I mean, as an example, like last year, a GOP representative in Maine stood up in the State House and turned down legislation that would make period products free in all prisons, saying that prisons weren't meant to be country clubs, right?
Wow.
And that's just one example. A few months ago, Tennessee turned down legislation that would take down the tampon tax for 3 days for back to school shopping, saying that they were worried women would hoard tampons, right? So we get pushback simply from people not agreeing that period products are necessities, all the way to people saying, well, how are we going to pay for this, right? The tampon tax brings in significant amounts of revenue because a lot of people are using them. How are you going to make up that revenue, right? And my answer is, well, do what some states have done and increase the tax on alcohol and tobacco and things that we're trying to demotivate people from using. And I think that's kind of how we push back against that opposition.
How has your life changed? Because now you're a very public figure. Is that kind of tough sometimes? Because you get asked personal questions about your childhood and being homeless. I know you talked about your sexual abuse that you suffered as a child, physical abuse. How is that taking its toll on you? Are you doing okay with it?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. For the last year or two, I've been on a sort of speaking and book tour, and you're right. Like, I get up every day and I commit myself to being very open about my past trauma. I talk a lot about my history of growing up with sexual assault and abuse in my own family and struggling with self-harm, and I talk a lot about my family's own experiences. But I think that for me, and everyone's healing journey is different, but for me, so much of my healing has come from me finding power and sharing my story, right? Because I think the unfortunate reality is the adversity that I face from, sexual abuse to struggling with mental health are unfortunately much too common. And every time I get on a stage and I share my story, it's hard, right? Because talking about trauma is sort of reliving it. At the same time, every time I get off stage and I meet all of these incredible young people, especially young women, who come up to me and share their stories of literally me too, right? And I think that being able to recognize that so much that I've gone through, no one should have to go through, but unfortunately the numbers are high around how many people experience this. And I think by sharing stories, we're able to break the stigma and change culture. And so I think that I don't mean to say sharing my story justifies what we all went through, but I think that it kind of builds community, and that community is something I really wish I had when I was going through those situations.
I am just so blown away by all you've done and very proud of you. So congratulations on all you've done, and keep up the great work. We're going to put all the information for everyone on our website at KATU2.com. The book again is called Period Power. Nadya Okamoto, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.